Wondering how you can become better at running your business? Entrepreneurship can be stressful. There's too much to do and not enough time. If you're isolated in your daily decisions, have no fear. Success and balance are possible. Welcome to the Small Business Answer Man podcast, where you master the art of running a successful business using practical advice from experts who want to help you succeed. Now, here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome. We're glad to have you again back for another Small Business Answer Man podcast. I told you in this second quarter, we're really going to share with you what I call the 6P business owner formula. It's people, pricing, productivity, profit, processes, and promotion. And today we're going to get into promotion a little bit because my guest Love talks about promotion and marketing. So Zach, great to have you on the podcast. Can you share with our Small Business Answer Man listeners, what problem will you help solve for them today?
Yeah, Gary, great to be here. And I think my superpower these days is really understanding marketing at a deep level where you drive lead flow, you find a way to build a predictable lead flow system so that way you can drive revenue and growth.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm excited to have Zach Lush. He's CEO of DOJOX and CMO of VMax Group, and has over 12 years of marketing experience in helping coaches and consultants drive growth. A former professional baseball player and a lifelong passion for coaching, Zach inspires growth with his strategic insights and infectious optimism. He's coached thousands of entrepreneurs at both the agency level and working under marketing gurus like Aaron Fletcher and Legal Funnels. It's great to have you on the podcast. Welcome, Zach.
Gary, it's a pleasure to be here, brother. I have a lot of respect for what you're doing here to champion small business. And if there's one guy I've met that's really a driver or a catalyst for change and accountability, it's you, man. Like it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last couple of years, and you're a force of change. So keep it up.
Well, I appreciate that. And you have been a great influence in my life too and stuff. And I think we need to start out with what you're really passionate about, because I think you shared a little bit in your intro section what you want to help listeners solve. But what are you really passionate about, Zach?
Yeah. So Gary, to me, small business owners, entrepreneurs, it's very akin to what I went through as a professional baseball player. It's hard. There is constantly getting knocked down. It really can mess with your mindset. And if the big thing is really understanding, like this is a long game, and it's so cliche to say, but it's really who you become along this journey that's so much more valuable than what ends up in your bank and the rest of it. So to me, small business owners, entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of our country. I think it's what makes our country great. And the way we ascend up the ladder, to me, we all know we need to do marketing and sales, but what I've learned from guys like you and others is just how important relationships are. And I would almost start there, like start with the relationships, let that feed your marketing. Because when you're out there talking to your audience, you're going to hear the data points you need to build good marketing. But to me, it's almost start at relationships to allow that to fuel your marketing, and everything else becomes so much easier. I think the mistake people make with marketing, and why I'm so passionate about helping them, is they're in their head. They're thinking, I think this is what the market's problems are, or I think this is what they need, but they don't ever validate that. So I think if I could give any piece of advice to an entrepreneur, to a guy struggling to get leads in those businesses, just double down on relationships, man. Just build up a good system for outreach, and then we can systematically build up a good marketing strategy from there.
Yeah, I love that, because the relationships that gets you through those tough times, and business owner entrepreneurs, they always see a flow, and there's different ways to do that. But you have your core people, your family, those type of things, but you need people outside of that. It really helps you grow that, and really getting to understand that. You and I are in a mastermind group together, and it's how we've got to know each other, but we get to know each other more than just on a business level. We get to know each other. We kind of become trusted advisors each person that's there. So
Yeah.
can you share with me, when you're talking about marketing and when you're trying to solve that for someone and really for them to gain more clients and stuff, how do you go about that in your marketing efforts to really get people to think about how to handle it? Because the problem is sometimes when we're too close to it, we have the hardest time. That's my greatest challenge, because I know what the challenge is, but I don't know if I always express it in the same problem method as what the consumer would be that buy my services.
Sure. Yeah. And it's because you show up as a coach. So I really like working with guys like you. So coaches, consultants, thought leaders, subject matter experts. To me, it's a little bit different than like the home service professional or the mortgage broker. You know, not so there's two ways I would attack marketing depending on who they are. So for a coach and consultant, a subject matter expert like you, to me, it starts with you. It starts with what's your message, and you know what's your authentic voice. And I feel it has to start with message, because that's the thing that's fueling you. And go to a deep enough level where it's not just, you know, your domains of expertise, but what are the stories that you can share that frame up a lesson that you've learned. You know, what's the essence? What was your core essence? What makes you who you are? Like, what are you passionate about? What are your core values? What's your mission? Now let that frame up your message, because to me, a good message answers three things. Number one, is it relevant? Are you answering to a relevant problem? Number two, are you conveying in a way that's elegant? Is it simple enough where I understand it? And number three is, you know, is it unique? How am I differentiating this from all the other things that are out there? So that's where it starts. So once you know who you are and what you do, now you got to go find, well, who values that? And that's the market part. And the market part should map to, you know, once you know what your message is, that message should map to the problems that you solve. And I think the biggest advice I could give to those that are struggling with marketing is understand, when you can speak to a relevant problem in a way that your audience understand there's another layer. So there's going to be what we call the known spoken problem. These are the things we complain about. Hey, my lead flow is inconsistent. I need to drive growth. Well, it's the deeper, the unspoken problems, the things that they would relate to, you know, a spouse or a close friend that we really need to understand. It's like, well, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my business. I'm afraid, you know, I'm too old and I can't go and find another job if this doesn't work. So those are the fears that really will resonate. And then from there, understand positioning, understand that there's strategies and methods to get cut through. There's preferences we all have. So, you know, if we're dealing with an older clientele or entrepreneurs, like, they're probably not wasting time on Instagram or social media, but they may be on LinkedIn occasionally. They may be listening to podcasts. So try to match that to where your audience is at. So at a high level, there's so many more. I can go way deeper on that, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to go a little bit deeper in the problem area, because that becomes, I think, one of the challenge is kind of what you're saying. We know what the known spoken problem is, but kind of where the deeper problem is, that where if we touch their emotional side, that we kind of really resonate with that person, because something that's deeper within them is what they would call more the emotional side that gets them involved. Because of course, I know for myself, we've joked, because Zach and I are both for buyers of programs and stuff. If we get emotionally involved, if I'm emotionally attached to that, I normally will buy that product or service.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the power of stories. Stories sell because stories typically have an emotional component. There's a conflict. There's an issue that we've had to overcome. And a funny story: I was at a workshop by a guy named Steve Larson who ran Offer Lab, and I knew he was going to pitch me on day 2. So I purposely left my credit cards and everything back at the room. And then I knew when he was going into his opening pitch, he framed it with an unbelievable story. I was bought in. I ended up rushing back to the hotel, got the car, bought the program for $15,000. I was like, damn, and I knew it was coming. And even at the time, I couldn't afford it, but I was like, he got me, because he hit on my emotions. And that's the power and the beauty of doing this deep thinking on the front end. Understand where your customer is at. Where are they at on their journey? So in a business context, if they're in the startup mode, you know, we know probably no work-life balance, overwhelmed, stressed out, don't know where my next steps are, you know, lack of systems, all these things are breaking. I can go in and knowing those are the spoken problems. I already know what his unspoken would be. Well, he's fear of failure. He's, so I can speak to those and I can frame it with a story where I can say the same thing. Well, when I started my first business, I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know what was going to happen. And immediately defenses come down because I'm speaking to him through story and I'm hitting on those emotions. You can't just come out and say, hey, are you afraid of, or do you have fear of failure? Because people are just like, no, you have to earn it. And you do that through story.
Yeah, and when you share that message, that really resonates with them. And I just saw a stat from, I think, HubSpot this week that said 83% now of businesses are using video, and how important it is to be able to show video within your messaging that you're out there. And I know a lot of small business owners, maybe they have a local shop and they don't think it's that important. The nice thing is you have a video camera with you.
Yeah.
Because today you can do as easy as a camera on your phone, that video on that phone, and put that up and let that information share. And if you're in a product or services business, there's just so many different ways. And I guess that's one of them, Zach, if you don't mind sharing. We've talked about the problem, how to kind of get that, create the story. But what would be some advice? And of course, there's tons of different businesses, so there's no one way to do it. But what's one of the things that you think businesses today and business owners really have to think about with their marketing, that they need to make sure when they're putting that message out and sharing it with people?
Yeah, I think number one, Gary, you already said it. Everyone needs to have a video strategy. I think the easiest thing to do is go start a YouTube channel. That's something that will live in perpetuity. And you can always tie it back to a funnel. And that's, to me, video. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, I think video is worth 1,000,000 words, because now with the advent of ChatGPT and everyone is effectively can create or write content, now the audience is going to demand more trust, and you can do that with video, because all right, this is a real guy. He's putting himself out there. He's providing value. To me, that's the way you over-index of what's happening here. Have a video strategy. I would say number one, everyone, whether it's a home service professional or a coach or a consultant, needs to have a YouTube channel and post to that consistently, because it's going to take, especially if they've never done it, it's going to take 100 videos to get good at it. But I have a client, she's a Medicare coach, and she was scared out of her mind to put any video out there. Now she goes live once a week in her Facebook group. She's got YouTube stuff. She's crushing it. I mean, we haven't even touched her ads. We've been running the same ads since last February. Because we answer to a relevant problem. She puts herself out there, and people love her, and it's blown up her business.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Another area that you kind of talked about, I know you've been doing a lot of research and you're digging in deep on, is in ChatGPT. And, for some business owners are hearing this and it's like, oh gosh, not another thing. How do I use this? And, how can they benefit from it? So what have you found that you've really learn for ChatGPT, how it can help you, but how you think as far as business owners and entrepreneurs, it can be a benefit to them?
Well, when it first came out, was it November, when I really kind of came across my radar and I played with it that night, I was like, all right, well, there goes my job. I don't think it's going to go to that degree, but it's definitely going to eliminate a lot of your admin tasks. And to me, it's literally serves as a co-pilot. It's like having Jarvis from Iron Man here, where I can feed it. And I think what most where they're missing the mark on ChatGPT and tools like that is not understanding how to prompt it, because it really comes down to feed it the information it needs. You can't just ask broad questions like, hey, what would be a good marketing strategy for a coach? You need to really get down to the minute details and say, okay, I help startup entrepreneurs between 500K and 1.5 million in turnover that have small teams and that have these problems with this solution. That's the type of stuff you need to give it that level of detail. And then you can start asking the questions. And man, it's not that I fired them, but I've really reduced the VAs and the people I was using just by having ChatGPT. So it saved me a ton of money, and it's probably made me 10 times more productive. And it's an unbelievable tool for those that struggle with marketing, because you can do all the things that we're talking about. Go get the problem stack, get in their head, pull out the stories. I mean, it's fantastic. So it's here to stay, man. And then there's all the other ones with like image creation and logo creation. Like that's taken. Now you can effectively, you've got a branding person right there. You just feed it some text. Hey, I need a flyer for this. and things like Adobe Firefly, Midjourney, all these other AI tools that are out there are, a couple of bucks a month at most, and you have an entire graphic design team now. It's wild.
Yeah, there's just so many tools that's available to you. And the thing for small business owners and entrepreneurs is to realize this can really benefit you, because it becomes, what you said, a time saver. It doesn't do everything for you. Like you said, ChatGPT, we got to know how do we put input to get the output that we want. But we've got to be willing to spend that time, because it really can make a difference in our business. In the same way as there's new marketing strategies, the ways to get it. If you're not on and doing where your site is set up, where you're out in the web and you're gaining clients. I had a client yesterday, I was with Zach, that is getting clients, but the challenge that he's having is he's getting his leads come in, but the people aren't following up with them quick enough. And the thing is when you get an internet lead now in, I've heard stories up to, you want it as quick as possible, but within an hour, you have to respond to that person.
Yeah.
Otherwise they went on. And you have to decide, how are you setting up those systems? Because we have to realize this phone is the connector. And if I think about something, I want to check it right then at that time. And I think that's really one of the areas that marketing has really changed, is we have to move quickly and fast, be able to adjust and put a message out there that people resonate with.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's an attention economy. And Chris Smith in the book Conversion Code had a graph on there. I don't know where he pulled it from, but it showed you if you do not answer a lead within a 5-minute window, like the percent of that turning into anything else was minuscule. I think it was like it's like 80%, 86% of people that I responded to within 5 minutes typically convert into a sale or whatever the thing was. But as soon as you wait longer than that, yeah, it's a significant drop off. And I think that's where most have leaky buckets in their marketing, is understand, like, hey, follow up is key. You're saying you're going to offer a lead magnet, deliver it right away, or give them something else, like a video they can watch while they're waiting for the email. Or if they booked an appointment, make sure there's a text message follow up that happens right away, or even better, a personalized message. Hey, Gary, can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. Now that's where everyone is missing the mark. They're spending all this money on lead generation, and they're terrible in follow-up, and then they come back and say marketing doesn't work. It's like, no, you don't have a good process in place. So that's a good point.
Yeah. I had a sales coach said $50,000 item was follow up, because the money's in the follow-up. You get the lead, you've got to then do something with it. Zach, I'm curious, from your end, what would you say is your biggest business struggle that you have with the businesses that you run and the things you've done in the past?
Yeah, I've run up against that $1 million ceiling so many times, where I realized, like, that's no man's land. That $1 to $5 million turnover is like, all right, that's where you really need to have processes dialed in. You really need to have a people management system in place. And that's where realizing, I had kind of a lone wolf mentality through the multiple businesses I ran as a younger person. And it's like, I can just do this by myself, where I just ran myself into the ground. It wasn't the business wasn't providing, but by the end of the day, I just had no time. I was out of time, and realized now I do believe in that axiom that you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. And so it's really about, putting good people around me. But I think the biggest struggle was just that lone wolf. It was very isolating. It was very lonely. It was, I'm not having a sounding board back in the day to do things like we're doing right now. Like, hey, what are some of your best practices? How can you help out? So I just see that's the number one struggle, as I think we need to realize, especially as a small business owners, you can't be in isolation.
You're listening to the Small Business Answer Man podcast. We'll be right back. Are you tired of spending countless hours and resources on recruitment and hiring, only to end up with candidates who are not the right fit for your organization? Our upcoming live 2-hour masterclass is designed to teach you the skills and techniques necessary to attract top talent, conduct effective behavior interviews, onboard new employees seamlessly, and retain your best employees. The average cost of a bad hire is $25,000. Imagine having our proven system in place that gives you all the tools you need to ensure your organization continues to thrive. You'll get over 600 behavior-based interview questions, customized response templates, employee referral templates, and much, much more. Don't waste another moment struggling to find the right candidate for your organization. Enroll in our Success in Hiring live masterclass today and take the first step towards building a talented and high-performing team. Don't miss out. This virtual event is happening on June 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. Go to successinhiring.com to register now or check it out on smallbusinessanswerman.biz. And now back to the show. Well, Zach, we were talking about the biggest struggle. What is one of the things that you think has benefited you in business as one of the things that you think a core component that you would recommend to other business owners and entrepreneurs?
Man, just the power of having advisors, having mentors. And again, I think there's multiple journeys we take in our life. The early one is, can you survive on your own? Can you be independent? I think the next one is, can I take care of other people? And then when, those of us that are in business, there's typically, now I'm in a place where there's another startup. It's big. It's got way more, they can create way more impact, and just realizing how important it is to surround myself with good people, with people that I trust, know, like and trust, that I can lean on for wise counsel. And I just, as a young person, I think most of us think we're invincible. And then as we age, we realize, man, it's so much easier when I can delegate, and then I can call Gary and say, hey, what do you think here? What's my process? So, man, the power of mentorship, coaching, even if you're a coach, coaches need coaches. And if you can get into, like we are in our mastermind, if you can find trusted advisors, those that are like-minded and share the same core values, that's like a rocket fuel, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found out early on in my career. I joined a mastermind. I was joking, and actually had one of the gentlemen that was in it. I seen this last week, and I said to him, I said, man, when I got in that mastermind, I was like the young guy in there and stuff. I said, I'm not knocking you at all, but I said, you guys were a little bit my elder and stuff. Well, it's now role reverse, but that's the reason I still love masterminds, and I do my own, the Ascend Mastermind, is because I see the benefit people get out of it. And the thing is you get out of your own little world and you get other trusted advisors that's there. So if you're not in one, that's one I would highly encourage you to do. Check out ours. We'll have the details of how you can do the Ascend Mastermind, but get somebody that's helping you, because you don't have to be on an island. There's people that's willing to help you. They don't have to be overwhelmed and chaos. Instead, you can really get that's there. And, you find out, why do I go to people? Why did I have Zach on? Because he's a marketing expert. I love marketing, but I'm not the expert at it. Instead, I want to bring people on that gives you those different opinions that's there. One of the things I know you've been working on, Zach, is with ChatGPT. You've done a lot. We talked just a little bit about it earlier, but you've really been kind of digging in this. And I think you're putting together kind of a course that you're willing to kind of offer our members and anybody that's listening and stuff to that. Can you share kind of what you're doing there and what's going to be available to them?
Yeah, it's just a quick mini course, and I realize most everyone has no idea what their message is. They really struggle with putting together a 30-second elevator pitch. They don't truly understand their customers' pain problem or the pains and problems at a deep level, like we talked about today. And effectively, what I've done is I've built, I call them mega prompts and recipes. And I take people step by step through how to really discover their message, how to create their positioning, and then how to build an entire marketing strategy for the year, and then those 90-day marketing plans, just using ChatGPT. So it looks like it'll be a 6-module course at this point, and I'm just going to focus on that because there's a lot more things we can do. We can get into pitches and offers, and actual methods to get cut through. But the biggest pain point I think everyone has is around that messaging and positioning point. So everything is built around that. So it'll be just courses that they can consume, and then I'm going to do 2 live Q&As just to get into the nuance of it. So that'll be available here soon. Don't have the website yet, but by the time this goes live, Gary, I'll make sure that I get that website to you. We'll just put it in the description.
So we'll have the link in the show notes. Like I said, he's literally creating this as we go, but he said he wanted to be able to put that out there and offer it. So we'll have that link that's in show notes at smallbusinessanswerman.biz, so you can check that out. Zach, if they want to connect with you, what would be the best place to connect with you?
I think best place right now is LinkedIn. It's where, I spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on Facebook these days. So it's just Zach Lush on LinkedIn. And then Twitter, I'm starting to get my Twitter game going just because it's startup time. So, I'm actually executing my own system for my startup DOJOX. So that's another place to find me.
Okay, great. So check those out and know those are available to you. Zach, before I let you go, I got one last question for you that I ask every guest. What would be your best business advice or tip you would give to business owners and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, to me, especially from a marketing nexus, is just understand your customer audience at a deep level. We talked about it today. Answer to relevant problems. Find a way to be elegant with your messaging so you can get cut through. They understand it. They get it. And then find really what makes you unique, what makes you you. Bring your spin to it. And I think that's the way, because people want authenticity. They want real nowadays. So find a way to do that, and you're off to the races.
Well, I told you this was going to be a great podcast, and you was going to learn a little bit about that promotion side, which is marketing of the 6 Ps. We really got into that today. And Zach, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Gary.
Now, listeners, I always give you an action. What can you take as an action out of this? Really, you need to look at your marketing plan and talk about it. Do you really have the problem solved? You may know what the problem is, but have you gotten to the deeper issue? Because when you get to the deeper issue and you start talking about your stories, and that uncovers something else, it kind of unlayers the onion, as they say, and it gets to the core of your message that you need to share. So really think about that in your business. What is your big problem you're solving? And then what's that core issue that would get your customers totally involved in that emotional side of it by sharing your stories that's available to you? Remember, we're going to have another great guest next week. So please come back and join us. If you like this podcast, please share it with others. Also, if you can rate and review our podcast, that's how our podcast keeps growing each and every week. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. Make it a great day.
That's all the time we have for this week. To continue your journey, head over to smallbusinessanswerman.biz to access the tools and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who would benefit from listening. That's smallbusinessanswerman.biz. Until next time, remember, when you find the right solutions, your business grows and you get your time back.